we've had quite a bit of experience around the mine areas and things like that. Go back to the early 70s when the land in DeSoto County was actually sold. Being a native of DeSoto County, I understand, that it was actually sold to the phosphate companies at the time. And there was reasons for it, because recently I have pulled up a report from the General Accounting Office of the United States. It states that phosphate is an essential plant nutrient for which there is no substitute, which means its nutrients is very critical to the thriving U.S. agriculture industry. Working in the ag industry myself, I know very well of how important phosphate has been to us. Now, in my early years, and I really appreciate Jim and Buddy for the service that they did while serving our country. I was not able to do that because when I was when I was 8 years old, I ended up with a sickness called encephalitis. And after many studies, I still have it in my bloodstream today. So therefore, they rejected me from even going in the military. So I didn't really actually have the opportunity, and I really appreciate what y'all did, the service that both of y'all did in our service for our country. But I also have to look at also the future of DeSoto County as well. I always try to take in considerations when I make a decision, and the board knows that I probably talk least of anybody. I ask probably the least questions, but I talk the least of anybody up here, because I'm always analyzing what I'm saying and thinking and figuring the right direction to go. Understanding, like I said, a little bit about the mining and the phosphate industry, I realize that $5 billion annually is as far as bottom line of just the phosphate industry alone. Just in Bone Valley itself, because Bone Valley actually has the richest nutrient of the phosphate on the market today. Therefore, that's why it has always been mined as heavy as it is in this area. And I understand that. I can remember back when the first land was sold, that they actually did core testing on the land here in DeSoto County, and the actual core test showed that even the phosphate is not even as depth as the normal Polk County phosphate was. It's actually closer to the surface. Actually, I was digging a retention area for a U.S. geological water well at the time, and we actually hit phosphate at 19 feet, and which is kind of unusual, but we were over close to the Peace River, and we actually seen that. And I noticed that, in the elements of phosphate mining, understanding what they've said and things like that, and understanding, there is one thing that I know enough about is the clay settling areas, and I know the importance of it, the clay settling areas, that these dikes and these total retention areas has to be designed correctly. If you don't, you will have a disaster. And as Mosek has brought out earlier, that since the restrictions was placed on the mining, things have changed a whole lot, and there's been less accidents occurred since the EPA has put more restrictions on these clay settling areas. Also, in DeSoto County alone, when the core test was done back in the 70s, the closer we get to the Gulf of Mexico, there is more sand than there is clay in the soil. So technically, we would most likely, and I have read some of the mining report, and I have seen that the sand in itself, we have less clay, so we're going to have less clay settling areas, which I've noticed has been brought up. It's been a very tough situation from both sides in explaining this, and I know the gentleman that spoke about the clay settling areas, he's aware of these facts, because I know when the AMAX actually sold the land to them, that they actually, the reports went with it. So I do understand that portion of the phosphate industry. I also understand that we have to also look out for our county as well. And with that, I'm going to yield, let the other members if they have anything else to say.